Huge changes are underway in the college football world here in the West, and it may really impact what you see and who you see playing on TV in the coming years. It also leaves some of us wondering if the Pac-12 will survive. Let's take a closer look. The two marquee schools, USC and UCLA, bailed yesterday. They left the Pac-12, so now I guess maybe it's the Pac-10, in my mind anyway. They left for the Big Ten, which includes big teams like Michigan and Nebraska and Ohio State and others. Sports talk show host and columnist John Canzano told me today money, huge money, is behind this move.
Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, we have a weird time in our sports landscape where, we're watching money drive everything. Like it's always been there, but it hasn't always transcended history and tradition. The Pac-12 conference was founded in downtown Portland 107 years ago at a hotel that no longer exists anymore. And the conference, the members had largely stuck together, thick and thin. They were obviously operating with a revenue model that was, insufficient compared to the SEC and the Big Ten. But the hope was that in 2024 that they would negotiate a new media rights deal and catch up. They can't do that now because they don't have the Los Angeles market. That market has been removed from the equation. So, we're talking about a lot of tradition, a lot of upset people across the conference. I've talked to people in Salt Lake City and in Phoenix and in Seattle. Everybody's going through the same thing where they're lamenting the loss of this conference and a lot of uncertainty now on the horizon.
Although, won't they still have Stanford in the California market?
Yeah, they'll have Stanford in the Bay Area, but Stanford and Cal in the Bay Area are interesting. That is a big media market, but they don't get great ratings. Like you have a transient community there in the Bay Area, a lot of transplants. That LA market was really 60 to 70% of the media equation for the entire conference. And so you have removed that. That is significant. George Kliavkoff, the Pac-12 commissioner, is now, they met with the ADs and the presidents in a virtual call today. They talked about, hey, we have to look at expansion options. I also think that they're going to consider a merger with the Big 12 conference. So keep an eye on that. Those Big 5 conferences, the Power 5, have now been reduced to the Power 2, the Big 10 and the SEC. So I think the Big 12 and the Pac-12 have something in common here. And I think they could come together in like a 20-team conference and try to rival what is going on in the Big 10 and the SEC.
This may be obvious for you because you live in that world, but couldn't the Pac-10 survive with just losing those two schools? Don't they already have a media deal? And wouldn't the next one be pretty good too? You still got Oregon.
Yeah, right now they could, in the short term, for the next 2 years, live as the old Pac-12. USC and UCLA are going to have to be part of this conference. But what we're seeing in the college sports landscape when it comes to media rights deals, the Big Ten's deal with Fox is $1 billion a year. That's $100 million that they are basically saying, hey, look, UCLA, USC, you'll be getting $100 million each by the time you join the Big Ten conference. And by the way, that's every year $100 million. By comparison, the Pac-12's current media rights deal gives USC and UCLA about $33 million a year. They are at a tremendous deficit every year to the Big Ten and the SEC. So the Pac-12 could cruise along as is, but they're going to be cruising along at $50 million a year less than their peers. And that's difficult to compete with when you stretch that over a decade and say, hey, look, Oregon State, Oregon, go compete with the Big Ten schools. And, Oregon has been a little bit of an outlier because they have Phil Knight, right? And they're funded at a level with gift giving that others aren't. But at some point, that $50 million a year is just too much to overcome. So the Pac-12's got to do something. They either have to add teams to the Pac-12 conference or they're going to have to merge with the Big 12 and create something that is more appealing to ESPN and some other providers.
So interesting how it becomes an arms race that you're talking about and how our schools are now being left behind.
Yeah. And look, I talked to lawmakers in Washington today, lawmakers in Oregon today. They reached out to me because they were interested in weighing in on this. And what they want to do is they want to create some kind of provision or maybe legislation that ties Oregon and Oregon State together and Washington State together, so that you don't get a case where Oregon and Washington, for example, defect to the Big Ten Conference and leave the Beavers and the Cougars behind. I don't know if I support that. I frankly don't know if it means anything. It may just be a gesture at best. But it's clear that everybody, from politics to sports to households that are your key viewers, everybody's tuned into this. Everybody cares about this.
Yes, they do. John Canzano, so good. Stay tuned on this one. No one seems to know for sure how this is going to go. By the way, what's your reaction to all this? Do you think the LA schools are being greedy? Maybe they're just being realistic. Is this a sign that big college football has gotten out of hand? Or is it just market forces that are rising the best teams up to the top? Send me an email. Let me know what you think. The address is thestory@kgw.com, or call and leave a voicemail 503-226-5090.